Welcome all, and you can see we are live on YouTube. It's 10 seconds per slide, which is kind of long. There we go. And you can donate to support Science in the Virtual Pub. And we do have the, except for the specifics of the Earth Day program, the full list of the season is up there. And the New York Rocks exhibit will be open at the Museum of the Earth through the end of the year, a temporary exhibit, sticking around for a little while. And we've got a bunch of people in the waiting room. Here comes a bunch of folks.
Don, if you want to make me a co-host again, then I can deal with letting people in.
And this is a program of the Paleontological Research Institution. You can see our events calendar at priweb.org/events for more than just Science in the Virtual Pub. And we'll let this go around, be the last one, and then I'll hand it off to Andrea. So again, I'm Don Haas, the Director of Teacher Programming at the Paleontological Research Institution and your host for Science in the Pub. Tonight's program is with Andrea Varga from SUNY New Paltz, talking about creative sustainability, communication, and education through the arts, engaging Gen Z in climate something or other. And 3 weeks from tonight, we'll have climate change in Uganda with Shaban Lutaya, who will be joining us from Uganda at 5 o'clock in the morning, his time. Second session in March will be Glenn Branch from the National Center for Science Education. Then our April 11th program will be PRI's director talking about his recent trip to Antarctica. And then we will have our Earth Day program, which we're still finalizing on April 25th. And we will round out the season on May 9th with a panel of educators who have sailed on the JOIDES resolution, talking about ocean research and why we should all know about that. And I'm going to stop sharing and hand it off to Andrea. And take it away, Andrea.
Okay.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Don. I'm so excited to join all of you. I was really inspired a couple of weeks ago by the discussion around the climate education bill. And so that definitely informed what I'm talking about tonight for sure. So if any of you were here a couple of weeks ago for that, I think you'll see the interlinkages for sure. And it's really fun.
If you want to go back and watch it, you can find the link to the recording on the Science in the Virtual Pub page.
Yeah, I'm pretty passionate about that legislation, so it's very exciting. Yeah, and so anyway, I'm excited to also see some familiar faces on the screen as well, and I'm delighted so many of you have joined us tonight. So I'm going to do the sharing screen thing and do this correctly.
So remember to click your share audio.
Okay. Oh, I've still got my share audio. Okay. All righty. I am not seeing the share audio.
Yeah, it's actually when you first click on the share. So before you get to this point at the bottom, so stop screen share for a minute, then click it again. And before you click the second time, down, I believe in the lower
thank you.
left-hand corner is a share audio button.
Here we go. Thank you. It's always nice to have folks. Let's see. Who know how to do this? Great. There we go. Does that look good, Don?
It does indeed.
Okay, here we go. Full disclosure, everyone's going to be seeing some pictures of my kid in this slideshow. So that's part of my identity is I'm a very proud parent to a new middle schooler. And this is a picture of him from a long time ago, being intrigued by science, which he's a science kid through and through. And so that delights me beyond belief. I also have pictures of all of my, like a lot of my students. So I'll be sharing photos, not just of my child, but of my students, whom I'm also very proud of. Anyway, let's get moving on this. Make sure I have this going properly. There we go. So a little bit of an introduction about myself, who I am and what I do and what my mission is. I'm a mom, I'm an artist, I'm an educator, and I'm a gardener and lots of other things. But those are things I'm really passionate about. And I grew up in an arts and science household in the Intermountain West on a farm. My dad's a plant scientist and my mom's an artist. But my dad's also an artist and my mom knows a lot about science. So I never really learned to separate art and science because it was all around me all of the time. My dad used to joke that I was going to know botanical Latin by the time I was 5. And I think I did know a lot of it, and then I mostly forgot it. And now in middle age, I'm trying to relearn botanical Latin. But anyway, that was the kind of household I grew up in. And also growing up in the Intermountain West with folks really involved in conservation, I was well aware at an early age of the changing climate even back then. And, so that was something I was aware of, but for sure I didn't have anxiety about it as a small child. It was just part of the picture and really thinking about things like water conservation and how to manage our resources in ways that were more responsible. And so that was just part of kind of my reality for sure as a kid. And so having that around you all the time, pardon me, was important to my upbringing, and that's how I try to raise my child. And now I teach art and sustainability at SUNY New Paltz. I happen to be in the School of Fine and Performing Arts, but I find disciplines annoying. So I'm really lucky. I get to teach in our interdisciplinary honors program. And that's where I've really been able to incubate my sustainability focused courses. And those are Intro to Sustainability Seminar and Ethical Fashion Seminar. And I do teach sustainability in all of my classes, from costume design to history of fashion, history of world dress, and my mixed media art for storytelling class. And I could give a talk on how I approach sustainability education through each of those because they're different approaches. And I really enjoy exploring the many different ways that you can teach sustainability and climate education, incorporating science, art, and of course, joy. It's been a day of teaching, and so my voice is on that last little bit of, vocal cord energy for the day for sure. I imagine a lot of folks in the group understand how that goes. So I started down the path of teaching sustainability, motivated by dissatisfaction with the current state of affairs in the US and in higher ed in the late 20-teens. And I had a sense that I had more to give as an educator. And our campus has a sustainability faculty fellows program. So we're really lucky here at SUNY New Paltz with that. And so through that program, I started to empower myself to teach more than I ever imagined in my own curriculum. And that was the same year that I was invited to teach in our honors program. And that has really been the perfect place to try out ideas on students from across disciplines. And the thing I learned quickly was that they have more to teach me than I can teach them. So now I really think of myself as a guide. Let's see. So once I moved from being a climate activist in my free time to being a sustainability educator full-time, I really had to confront the anxiety crisis that is plaguing our kids, and not to mention my own concern as a parent. So finally, we're getting some data on the depth of this matter. And I'm just going to plunge right into this at the top of this presentation because it came up a couple of weeks ago when we were talking about the climate education across the curriculum bill. And so climate change has important implications for the health and futures of children and young people, yet they have little power to limit its harm, making them vulnerable to climate anxiety. This study, reported on by the NIH, is the first large-scale investigation of climate anxiety in children and young people globally and its relationship with perceived government response. The researchers surveyed 10,000 children and young people aged 16 to 25 in 10 countries in 2021. And this is a direct quote from the study. Respondents across all countries were worried about climate change, with 59% very or extremely worried and 84% at least moderately worried. More than 50% reported each of the following emotions: sad, anxious, angry, powerless, helpless, and guilty. More than 45% of respondents said their feelings about climate change negatively affected their daily life and functioning, and many reported a high number of negative thoughts about climate change. For example, 75% said that they think the future is frightening, and 83% said that they think people have failed to take care of the planet. Respondents rated governmental responses to climate change negatively and reported greater feelings of betrayal than of reassurance. And I mean, that makes me very sad. And I think it should make us all, very sad and stop in our tracks. So we know that this level of anxiety is not appropriate nor healthy for children. As adults, we have a sense of urgency over the challenges we face, or we should. I imagine probably everybody here is having a sense of urgency. And the anxiety is probably appropriate for us. But we adults have to figure out how to channel these emotions productively. Kids don't have those skills yet. So we know climate anxiety is happening, but what do we do about it? I believe that we need to allow emotions to happen, to let them out, encourage expression, sharing, and connecting in our classrooms. We need not be scared of this. It's okay. We don't need to be therapists to do this. And I've started including a session in my classes to allow students to rate their worry level about climate change and other injustices in the world, from 0 being not concerned at all, we're fine, to 10, we're doomed and there's nothing we can do about it. And generally, every once in a while I get a 10 and I'm like, okay, let's work on that. I've never gotten lower than a 4 from anyone in any discipline. And so generally they fall in a 7 to 9 range. And so we use that as a starting point to talk about why they feel that way. And first off, what I've found through these discussions is clear. Stop telling Gen Z to save the planet. It's disingenuous. It puts so much pressure on them, and it's natural that they turn away from these efforts. Consumerism, as we know, has become a narcotic to ease the strain of the bleak messaging that we're doomed. This rhetoric has become a way to condition youth to turn towards entertainment and consumption to ease the pain, and it detaches them from their own emotions and agency. I've observed that guilt is not an effective motivator for Gen Z, but engagement and feeling a part of something bigger is. What do we do instead of guilting and scaring them? We ask for their help, engage them where they are, be curious about what they think should be done and how they want to go about it. We need to educate them about the issues, including climate change, age appropriate, of course, then allow children to make connections to their own lives and local challenges. If we share examples of problems, but also solutions, and then we allow students to make conclusions and bring their creativity to the effort, I've seen that guilt can be effectively replaced with care and regard, and the key is engaging curiosity. So, as an art teacher, I know, I experience all the time that artistic expression is a great way to stimulate curiosity. And here are some examples of nature journaling from one of my classes. I find that we can allow our students to express their own humanity in ways that reinforce connections and identity with nature and natural systems, and then see what comes out. I suggest encouraging raw ideas, not perfection, and through that, creative processes and skills emerge. And, you know, I could have really just gone page after page after page of the nature journaling examples. They're amazing, and they help me notice things that I haven't noticed. And I do this all the time, but sharing these things with each other and our own kind of intimate observations of things large and tiny, you know, really help us reconnect and also get out of ourselves and our own problems. So this slide is an example of work by a biology student who needed break from his lab research on crickets. Very cool. I could talk about that all night too. Really neat lab research. But he needed a break to do something else totally different so he could go back to the lab with a fresh perspective. And much to my surprise, he took costume design to have something completely different from his regular schedule. And he told me that it really helped him just relax and take some pressure off. And the playfulness of imagining and drawing characters helped other parts of his brain rest. And that was really illuminating for me. I mean, I know that, but to hear a student be able to really articulate that was so impressive and self-aware to me. And he was just so much fun to have in the class. And, you know, he didn't come with a lot of experience drawing, but everybody can draw. And really once I helped him feel like it's fine, just come with ideas. That's all you have to have. He just had so much fun, and the whole class loved having him in there. So, and my 11-year-old loved his drawings the best all semester too. So that was a really playful and joyful way for a science student to kind of let off some steam. Let's see. This doesn't want to go down to the next slide. Come on. Okay, go over here. I find expressive arts, which include writing creatively, to be a great incubator for curiosity. Instead of thinking, what should I do about these problems, students are empowered to ask, what do I want to do to help with these issues? And this starts students down the path of replacing guilt with actions that are healthy and engaging. What if, as educators, mentors, and parents, we lead from a place of joy and wonder, helping them discover the world by coupling art and science? And I imagine most of us are already doing this in one way or another. So how do we amplify this strategy? Here's another example, and I've really populated my slideshow with examples from students. And this one is from last semester from the Intro to Sustainability final projects. This is a student who is geology and now I'm forgetting, he's geology anyway, and he's doing research on soils with one of our faculty members, and it's really amazing stuff. And they're doing work up in Kingston on urban soils and soil degradation and pollution, and it's so impressive. And so he came to me and he had this look on his face and he said, I don't know what I should do for my final project. And I said, Michael, what do you want to do? And he said, well, what I should do is something on soils because that's, you know, I'm really doing this research and I care a lot about it. I said, that's great. But what do you want to do? He said, oh, I just don't know. And I said, okay, what would be fun for you to do? And he looked at me and he's like, fun? And I said, yeah, what would be fun for you to do? And he said, well, you mean something about biking probably. And I said, then do something about biking. You can connect that to sustainability. And he kind of went away and he thought about it. And he came back and he said, I have an idea. I want to do a zine on biking in New Paltz. And and why that's healthy and what some resources are. I said, great, do it. Well, anyway, he ended up spending so much more time on this project, I think, than he anticipated. But he really deployed his creative skills. And I mean, just look, the illustrations are so beautiful. And this just turned into the most gorgeous little pamphlet. And this will be distributed this spring at our Sustainability Ambassadors table at the farmers market as a resource to help students know how they can connect out to our amazing Empire trail system. And he said after he did this that he spent so much time on it because he just felt a sense of relief at doing something that was just really fun, and he became so invested in it. And it makes total sense for him because he's one of our sustainability ambassadors and he's on the bike friendly New Paltz team. So I was like, Michael, it's not even like it was that big of a stretch, but sometimes you just have to kind of, I don't know, it's like give students the key to unlock the door. Like, it's okay, go through that door. And it doesn't minimize the soil science research, which is awesome. And so anyway, I found that to be a really great example of that strategy. So I want folks to stop asking, what should I do? And instead ask, where can I start? And everyone has a unique role to play in efforts to decarbonize, increase equality, decrease suffering, regenerate our ecological systems. But I can't, and I won't, give you a recipe or a checklist. This is not work that will ever be complete. So we have to change our metrics and expectations from what we should do to where can I begin? I mean, we all know what we have to do is decarbonize, and then everything else comes out of that. But creative expression can really tap into new ways of thinking about starting points. So where can you start as an educator? And so whether you're an educator or just a curious person, you know, wherever you fall, I have some suggestions. And I'm solidly part of the Reading Rainbow generation. And so I always have book suggestions for folks. And I use these books in particular as a starting point in my classes to provide informed direction and creative solutions. They're great to help empower educators working in adolescent and secondary ed as well. So I really love the approach of the folks at Project Drawdown. And not only are the books wonderful, but the websites are so current and they have outstanding resources. Students in my sustainability classes have responded resoundingly positively to the Project Drawdown approach, and the essays in the books are very accessible to a wide audience. If you're unsure about using drawing or creative expression in a class, but want to incorporate it, or if you want to incorporate it in your own life as part of your own practice, you're not sure where to start, don't worry about being a proficient artist. Don't compare yourself. This is what I encourage all my students. Like, it's not a competition. And in these two guides, again, very popular with my students, the authors help everyone start to draw what we see. And honestly, we all know how to draw. We just get unnecessarily self-critical and we compare ourselves unfairly to others. And so these approaches to nature drawing make it about observation and the action of putting marks on the page to record what we're seeing. In the introduction, and I love this, keeping a nature journal is just wonderful. And she has lots of levels of different kinds of skill sets and different approaches to a nature journal. So there's something for everybody and you can really see yourself in the book. But in the introduction to Keeping a Nature Journal by Claire Walker Leslie, E.O. Wilson writes, quote, "Because humanity evolved in nature over millions of years, there is every reason to expect that we possess an innate capacity to draw deep excitement and pleasure from experiencing it. And because our species has been exquisitely adapted to the razor-thin biosphere covering the planet by the same evolution, our survival depends on understanding and protecting the rest of life. What we must enjoy, including a clean, healthy, natural environment, also serves the interest of the human species," unquote. So there's a lot of philosophy in these books as well. I really love it. And then if you need some additional help to understand exactly where we are right now, currently on all of the big issues, climate, but also inequality, food systems, all of the things. These two books I find invaluable resources with great data, and even I like data when it's presented well. And so I highly recommend these as resources. Very readable. In fact, Julia, my student, who you're going to hear from in just a minute, said to me in the fall in Intro to Sustainability, I love this book. I love science so much. And I was like, oh, and I was like, we are going to work together, you and me, and we are for sure. So those are two that I recommend. So those are some of my foundational texts to help out. So I aim to teach climate science in a way that empowers and engages. And I'm finding that using artistic expression is a healthy and compelling way to do that. I try to help aspiring young teachers gain a sense that they can utilize climate science without being a climate scientist, and have confidence that such a foundation will allow them to expand their own disciplinary approach to climate and sustainability education without fear of criticism. Everyone needs basic science-based understanding to grasp climate change and other challenges that are exacerbated by it, like poverty, migration and displacement, health issues, trauma, biodiversity loss, etc. You don't have to be a climate scientist to teach these things. In fact, I think we all have an obligation to understand and address them. I find that connecting students through nature and play is a great strategy. And look, I have an MFA, so I get the feeling that, like, who am I to try and teach about climate change or ocean acidification or biodiversity loss, etc. But you know what? We have to all get over our insecurities and just step up and do the work. And not one of my students has ever complained about me taking them on a walk outside or out to draw. Also, you can teach about sustainability, nature, and our human connections to it, not only by going outside, but by going to museums, engaging in cultural activities, or eating food. These photos are from a class trip to the Dorsky Art Museum on our campus to see an exhibition that was all about textiles, and it gave us incredible insights into material culture, gender identity, and our connections to nature through fiber and cloth. And we had some really lively discussions after going to this exhibition. And it was a full 30-second commute from my classroom to the museum. So that was pretty awesome on a rainy, cold March day. So for a few minutes, I'll talk a little bit more about how I organize my classes, and then share some student work, and then we'll open it up for some conversations. So I start with the global goals, but you can use any sustainability framework to show interconnectedness. I just like the global goals because if you ask a group of random students to immediately select just one goal and say why they connect with it, they can, and they do. And I do that in class on like the first day. I do it all the time. Gen Ed classes with students, like brand new students, freshmen, sophomores from all across campus. I do it with the honor students in the seminars. I do it with art students in art classes. I do it in presentations. And I've never had one student not be able to connect with at least one goal. And in fact, usually they're like, only one? How can I only pick one? So, if you think students are disengaged, they're not. They're just waiting to be asked what they care about. So the goals start simply, but then you can really take a deep dive into the targets and get really specific and action oriented, just beyond what you see here with the 17 goals. So for my interdisciplinary seminar classes, the students engage in topical modules related thematically to a grouping of global goals or issues like consumerism and marketing. Then after engaging in the materials for the module, they each select a topic that they want to take a deeper dive into, and they research. Then they write a short, informative journalism style article that's shared on the discussion board. All of the students have to read and respond to several classmates after each learning module. This teaches them agency and helps them understand that their communication style matters. Plus, they learn from each other and discover the power of peer engagement, as well as the seriousness of doing research before you come to conclusions. For their final project, they have free range to select a topic that matters to them. They research it, and then they come up with a creative communication project to help share out the issue and some solutions or change makers in that area. And this is really important, how people can get involved on a local level. The students have full agency to select their topic and their creative project. They're encouraged to examine the ways they like to be creative and then figure out how to incorporate that into a communication strategy. So I'm going to show you a few examples. So I like to start out with zines, and maybe you have encountered zines. If you haven't encountered zines, they're a really accessible, easy to reproduce format for conveying ideas and themes. And anyone can create a one-page mini zine like these. I've done it with preschoolers. And this is, so these are flat. So it's just one sheet of like copy or printer paper. And you basically have a little format, and then it turns into a little booklet like this. So it's kind of a little origami project. So if you guys can see, so here's the sheet, and you fold it and you cut it, and then it ends up, you do a clever little thing. Anyway, you can find tutorials on how to do these on YouTube, but then it ends up in these charming little booklets. And what's great about something like this is you really have to distill down your message into a pretty concise format that you want to share out. And you just want to get people engaged in something and then provide resources beyond that. And students just really gravitate to this. And you don't have to consider yourself like artistic, or I think everybody's creative, but you know, we put these labels on us. So students will be like, oh, I'm not creative. I'll be like, anybody can do a zine. Don't worry so much about it. So it can be formatted digitally like this one is, or you can do your own simple drawings, and it doesn't have to be that big of a deal. And I love the one that I'm featuring here that's big. This is one of my students who is an education major. And so she got really excited about ways to make your classroom more sustainable. So I just love this one. And then she shared it out with her other education major friends. And then just to share some of the variety of projects, these were all from last semester. And so one is on regenerative agriculture, and the other one is from a student who's a theater management and political science double major. And she did hers on F1 racing and sustainability. So you never know what students will bring. And I learned so much from them. I love it. I was like, I never thought about F1 racing and sustainability ever, not once. And now I have. So that's a pretty fun aspect of this as well. All right, so the next, just get to the next slide there. This is another project that just, it warmed my heart in so many ways, because this was a student a couple of years ago who is really into public policy writing, an amazing writer, worked with NYPIRG, is going to law school. And she was pretty burned out by the end of the semester with writing. And she was like, well, I could do more writing. And I said, but what do you want to do? What do you really want to do? What do you do for fun? What do you do when you're not writing? She said, well, I love to cook. And I was like, we've been talking about food systems all semester. Do something around food then. She was like, oh, I just hadn't even thought of that. So she goes away and she does some research, and she comes up with these beautiful recipe cards and totally connects them to sustainability. And I just want to read you a little excerpt from one of them. So these were meant to be printed out at like double side. And so the roast turkey with berry mint sauce and black walnuts sounds delicious also. So she writes on the front of the card, food is incredibly important to any culture. Unfortunately, due to the effects of colonization, Native American foods are often underrepresented in culinary spaces, limiting shared knowledge of this aspect of American heritage. Even American cities with thriving food cultures often have no restaurants featuring indigenous foods. The recipe on this card is one of New York Times contributor Sean Sherman's. Sherman is a Lakota chef who works to share Native American recipes without colonial ingredients introduced by Europeans. And so what amazing context. And it's something that we can all do. And then one theme here that I really try to reinforce is we don't have to reinvent things. We just need to connect with other people who are already doing the work, and we can amplify what they're doing. And so I thought she just did such a beautiful job on this. And again, her response was, I really needed that. I needed a break from policy writing. And I was like, yes, totally valid. I could go on about this project for a whole presentation itself, but this was a student who was a geology and earth science education major. And he was in one of my early honors classes, and we were talking about synthetic microfibers in our waterways and microplastic pollution. And he just got so into this, and he really cares about our watershed and knows a lot about it as a geology student. And so not only did he do his project work for that semester on synthetic microfiber pollution, but he got really ignited and expanded that into what ultimately became a 2-year research project that I worked on him with. And he got a grant. He was able to install some microfiber filters on a couple of our washing machines in the theater department and do some preliminary data collection and research. And then he started a communication strategy to make people on campus and in our communities aware of this issue. We gave a bunch of presentations together, and he was just so good at talking about this that he drew our campus leadership in, and our campus leadership made a commitment to install microfiber filters on all of our dorm washing machines. And now he's graduated, he's teaching high school earth science himself, now super busy. And the project didn't end with him, because our sustainability ambassadors Beyond Plastics team has continued his work, continued to advocate for these filters. They're working on these are the 2 prototypes in a SOPAS hall right now, and they're collecting data, and they're working on, what it takes to empty them and use them and make it practical on a bigger scale. But that's the kind of thing that a project where you really enable a student to follow something that they're interested in, it can lead to bigger results. And when you empower them to say, hey, look around your own community, what do we need to do here? And then where can we go from that? And if we get these installed on all of our washing machines in our dorms, we will be the first campus in the United States to do this, which could be really huge. So again, I could give a whole presentation just on that. Of course, I wouldn't do it by myself. I would make Roy do it with me, because he's just really fun to listen to. And I think students are so fun to listen to. So I brought one of my current students with me tonight to share in this. And so I want to introduce and just allow Julia to talk for a couple of minutes about the impact that this teaching approach has had on her. So Julia is a sophomore, and she's an honors student majoring in biology education. And she's a member of our Eco Allies Club on campus and took Intro to Sustainability in the fall. And currently she's in my ethical fashion seminar, which when students take them back to back, I'm like, aw, makes me feel good. So you can see a slide, or on this slide, you can see one side of her gorgeous pamphlet that she made for the Intro to Sustainability final. And so anyway, I'd love to invite Julia to take a couple of minutes and just talk about the impact on her as a student.
Hello, so I'm Julia. I've taken 2 classes with Andrea, and they have completely changed the way I view the world. And I think her teaching style has to do a lot with that. So we have a mix of academic and creative assignments, but we get complete freedom on both. And I think that's a really important thing to take for any class. And so, like you said, we start broadly, learning about all these different things. And then as we progress through the modules, we get to choose something very specific and whatever we want to write about. So I'm much more of the academic side, but I don't always enjoy writing papers, but I have enjoyed writing and researching all my papers, because it's fully up to us what we want to write about. And then it allows me and everybody else to dive deep into some random topic that we probably wouldn't have researched without being prompted to. And then creative projects, they also don't have any guidelines at all, basically. As she said, she's just make a creative communication. So that's I enjoy that because I'm not made to like do some crazy painting that would end up like stressing me out more than not. But so I made this pamphlet. Like I really enjoy like designing things and doing like the meticulous organization. So that's fun for me. But then I think it's great for other students who are more creative and they get this opportunity to do whatever they want and something they enjoy. And if those students don't consider themselves academic but more creative, they get to still learn and spread knowledge in a way that they like, in a way that they connect with. And then allowing everybody to do their own thing and fully choosing some random topic, I think it allows for so much more learning than a teacher telling students, oh, research this topic, because everybody chooses their own thing and then we come together and we talk about it and we share. And so the classes we have is 15 people. So like that's 14 new ideas to everybody. And especially for creative projects, I love like the wide range we get to see of something more simple like my pamphlet, and then there's zines and music and like full art pieces. And so it's really fun to have that range and get to see what everybody else is interested in. And then in general, I think it's really important to not tell students exactly what to do, because I've always loved learning. I'm going to be a teacher. Like I want, obviously it's something I love, but a lot of people don't necessarily think they like learning or school. And I think giving them this opportunity to choose something that they like and are interested in can allow people to take learning into their own hands and then hopefully learn to enjoy it. And
Aw.
that's my little blurb.
Yeah, thank you. And I promise everyone I didn't do that just so Julia would make me feel really, really awesome, but she did. So thank you, Julia. But it really is a dialogue, and that's what I love so much. And what she said about learning from other students is, this is a joy to me too, because I learn so much from them, and they bring things that I really would never have imagined. And this was another project of one of Julia's peers in the fall. And this is a student who grew up in a funeral home in Albany. And she was really curious about like sustainability in the funeral industry. Now, talk about a topic most of us don't actually want to think about. But, when someone brings their curiosity around it and then brings information to you, it's like, oh, this is actually really interesting. And I'm really glad to have the information, even if it makes me uncomfortable. And that's sort of part of being human, is grappling with things like this that make us uncomfortable. And this research was exquisitely well done and fascinating, and truly something I had never thought about. And now I'm really glad that I've thought about it and started talking about this topic. So this is fascinating. And if you want any of this information, of course, all of this is available on the slideshow for you afterwards. So pretty fascinating stuff. On a little bit lighter side than sustainability in the funerary industry, this was a student who, for the ethical fashion class, did some posters on upcycling and sustainable fashion, and just really cute, dynamic, great kind of visual imagery and communication style. This is the same student then in Intro to Sustainability in a subsequent semester. And she's a music student, a violinist, and she got really interested in the sustainability of all of the materials used in making instruments. Another thing I'd never thought about. And so she did these info posters that can hang up in music studios and music departments or music stores, and just help people really think about these things and think about the sustainability of their musical instruments. The same semester, I had a student who was a skateboarder, actually computer science major, but skateboarder. And he got inspired by the musical instruments idea. And so he did sustainability in the skateboarding industry. And again, stuff I was like, oh, I'm glad to know this because my kid loves skateboarding. So you make these really amazing connections that, I could never give that assignment. Of course, I think writing is also part of creative expression. And so there are students who really do want to lean into their writing techniques. And so this is a student who is a very serious writer. I mean, she is really talented with technical writing. And so what she wanted to work on was sort of her persuasive writing. And so she wrote a really wonderful letter to Governor Hochul just a couple of months ago. This is just an excerpt from it, but really advocating for climate education across all levels. Yep, I know. I'm so proud. And then she did versions of this to send her assembly person and her senator as well. So we, all range. You don't have to do posters or pamphlets. You can write. And then as we start to wrap it up here, this is one of our sustainability ambassadors, and she asked me if it was okay to write poetry. And I was like, yes, of course, it's okay to write poetry. And so I just want to share, this is an excerpt. It's a longer poem. And I think it gets to the heart of all of this. And that's the point. So the excerpt I'll read is, the mosaic of the garden reflects the diverse hues of unity, where a harmonious interplay of cultures, perspectives, and aspiration germinates. Within this fertile ground, the intricate dance of roots mirrors the interconnectedness of a global society, interwoven with a shared commitment to sustainable coexistence. I just love it. Beautiful, beautiful poetry. And then another project that I'm about to share with you truly brought me to tears. I sat and sobbed through this because it was so beautiful, and it still makes me emotional. But this is a student who wants to work in education, like early childhood education, and music is very important to her. She understands the power of music in helping children understand complex things. And so she had us all sit on the floor, and the way you would with a bunch of children. And so this is her slide from her presentation, and she connected it to Global Goal 4, quality education. And so I'm going to play an excerpt. It's a longer song, and again, you'll have access to this. So if you'd like to listen to the whole song, you can. I'm going to open the link, and I'm going to take us, hold on. I'm going to take us a little bit into the song. And this is Carlin.
Well, I like to sing and use my imagination. But music in our schools is quality education. So what are you good at, and what can you share? Put the goal in something you love, and if you don't know where to start, the goals will show you where. No poverty, no hunger, too good, health and well-being for me and you. If the education that's quality, we'll be closer to gender equality. Clean water and sanitation, industry, infrastructure and innovation, clean energy, an affordable rate, the economy grows. Use of work is great, reducing inequalities in our sustainable cities. Responsible consumption, production for infinities, climate action for the life below water and on land. Peace, justice, and strong institutions go hand in hand, and we can't do it alone. We've got partnerships for the goals. That's 17, we're on a roll. That's 17 global goals, and we can't do it alone. We've got partnerships for the goals. That's 17, we're on a roll. That's 17 global goals.
I love that so much. And that is the kind of hope, the kind of the spirit, the joy in imagining a future that we all want to live in right there in a song that's accessible for our littlest ones all the way to our oldest nanas and papas. That music touches all of us. So in conclusion, as educators, we need to guide students into futures thinking and system change, or in other words, visioning a healthy, just, and thriving future that helps them get excited by the possibilities and how things can be different, rather than spinning out with anxiety in a doom cycle. I've seen that if you give kids a front row seat to the natural world by engaging them with creative exposure, walks, nature journals, school gardens, tiny terrariums, and then allow them to express how they feel through words, art, music, cooking, movement, they're unstoppable. There's so much power in this approach, and indeed, I believe it is tapping into the very essence of what it is to be human, a part of nature ourselves. So, in conclusion, I'd like to say, artists out there, bring out your inner scientist, and scientists out there, nurture your inner artist. We need everyone in this effort. Thank you.
Thank you. That was wonderful. Let's open it up for questions and discussion. And you can either raise your hand if you turn on your camera. You can raise your hand like that, or you can use the raise your hand under the reaction, or you can put stuff in the chat. And there's a nice comment from Wendy in the chat there.
Oh, I should open up the chat. I'm terrible about this.
And Frida's got a hand up. Well, go ahead and unmute yourself, Frida.
I want to say, first of all, can I be your student?
Oh, thank you.
I'm only 72, and I've been an activist all my life, and I'm a 10. And I came here directly from a meeting to prepare me to go to Albany and lobby. And I was still a 10, even, and I just want to say this, I'm nearly in tears with happiness that that people like you are teaching like this and empowering our children, because it is hard. I mean, I feel for them because I've been feeling this way since 1960. Only I grew up in the New York City school system where everybody just thought I was crazy. and you know, creativity and especially the giving giving young people their own agency. That is, I mean, I've learned from this presentation, I'm finally going to do that art project about that I've wanted to do, but felt like I didn't know how to go about it.
Mhm.
About art project about actually about waste, microplastics, and all of that. And I've had the idea for decades and been afraid.
Hmm.
And I feel empowered. So kudos to you.
Oh, thank
You're
you.
wonderful.
Please share your project with me. And in fact, I should share my email. I'm always happy to engage with folks at any level of your education.
Oh, thank you.
And I love collaborating. I love sharing ideas, or I just love seeing pictures. I'm always like,
Oh, good.
send me a photo of what you're working on. No, I mean it. Like, we have to come together and be a supportive community. And also, look, there are times when I am at a 10 too. And I admit that to my students. I'm like, look, I'm not always like a super mellow 4 or 5 at all, you know, and I wake up in the middle of the night and I stress out for my child's future. But then I'm like, okay. And today I can look out at my pond with my frogs and I'm like, you know what? Right in this moment, my frogs are being adorable and my kid is happy. And I'm like, okay, next step, you know? And so, I mean, we just can't always be amplified at a 10. We know that that isn't good for our bodies. It's not good for our minds. And so whatever it takes, right? And if connecting what takes us to a 10 with art that can take us down to a 4 or a 5, where I think it's healthier to be, like, if we can do that and then come up with something that helps us connect to other people who are like, oh yeah, that's really interesting, then you're really doing something. I mean, just we know from the last 40 or 50 years of marching with signs that it's not doing I mean, it's done a lot, but it's not doing everything it needs to do. So we've got to deploy some other strategies. So
And you're very right about what it does to our bodies. I can attest to that, the constant stress. And Julia, too, I want to thank you. That was a great presentation. You're on your way to being just as good as Andrea and
Thank
taking
you.
it to the next level. Thank you both.
thank you. It's lovely. Thanks for that feedback. It means a lot.
And Andrea just put her email in the chat if you want to get that. Other questions, comments?
I'm putting my Instagram here too. Do not feel obligated. I'm finally getting, like I'm finally getting to the point where I'm actually posting my artwork and some of my work. I've just been terrible about doing it because I'm busy making class plans and advising students. But anyway, finally I have an Instagram, and I'm going to put that here too. If you want to follow me, I'm just making a foray into this. Oh wait, that's my email. Here we go. That's my Instagram. There we go. Anyway, yeah. Hopefully.
I have a quick question. Yeah, so loved the talk. I worked for the Boys and Girls Club for like 8 years doing stuff like this, and so it brought me a lot of joy to see you do it for all ages. But I was curious about the kind of the periodic table of I don't know how to describe it. What is that from? Is that something you made, or what is that?
Oh, the global goals.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen it very much.
Oh, so that's I'll put this in here too in just a second. So it's the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. So short version, the global goals, and you can find them at globalgoals.org. And just the short version of this is in 2015. The global goals were rolled out, and they were basically ratified by all 193 member nations of the United Nations. And this is a worldwide program, and there is data collection, there's reporting. I mean, it's an amazing program. And if you work with kids, this is a shout out to the folks who work on the global goals in terms of education. So they have a wonderful offshoot called the World's Largest Lesson, and it's worldslargestlesson.org. And they have all kinds of amazing learning resources for children at every age level. So it really is an amazing thing to connect children and young people with a bigger plan to make our world a better place. And so it's also called the 2030 Agenda because they're the global goals to reach by 2030. I mean, we're far from a lot of them, but there are also a lot where we've made incredible progress. And so it allows us to really look at, the actual data in terms of things like good health and well-being or zero hunger, gender equality, reduced inequalities. I mean, I could go on and on. But anyway, it's really exciting to engage with this, and I find it really accessible for my students because you can look at all that and get super overwhelmed, or you can look at one thing and you can say, you know what, just like Julia or Carlin who wrote the song, and go, quality education is my mission, and within quality education, what part of it am I going to do? And the global goals kind of helps direct you, and it helps provide resources. So you're attached to a global community of people who are committed to this. And that's so heartening because isolation is the enemy here. Feeling like we're alone and we're the only one who cares, we're the only one in our community working on this thing. But the global goals really helps us connect out. So yeah, I highly recommend it, even just to uplift your own spirits. And then the other fun thing, if you're a data type person, which I never thought I was, and I kind of am now, which is totally weird, but the Our World in Data, which the book that I shared, The Not the End of the World by Hannah Ritchie, she's one of the data scientists at Our World in Data, and they have an associated website called the SDG, Sustainable Development Goals Tracker. And you can go goal by goal and see data and charts country by country, region by region, and really see where we are making progress and where we're falling short. It's amazing. So that's sdgtracker.org. If I was better at multitasking, I'd put oh, thank you, Don. Yes. Awesome. You've got the goal.
And I will note that the journal Sustainable, get the name right, Sustainable Earth Reviews has a special issue out on teaching the SDGs. And I peeked at my email right at the beginning of this session to make sure that I wasn't getting panic emails from people who couldn't get in, and just got notified that the article that I'm co-author on is accepted for that. So.
Oh, awesome.
Yes.
Lovely. I love that. Like nice symbiosis there.
Mm-hmm.
Lovely. Yeah. Nice.
Helen, go ahead.
Ever since we came to the US, I've been associated with Hudson River Sloop Clearwater. And if ever an example of an organization where song was a very important way of getting people excited and galvanized to take action, that's one.
Yes, indeed.
For sure. Pete Seeger and Riverkeeper, the Clearwater, all of that, like such an inspiration to me. And I use the Hudson River cleanup as an example of what we can do and what we're doing. Again, there's no endpoint, right? But the spectacular progress, it's just such an amazing example. And I when we talk about our watershed, and I'm like, look, the Hudson River estuary impacts the world's waterways, and Pete Seeger and his team of amazing artists and misfits and scientists came together and did something really remarkable and different in engaging communities. So I definitely, I'm with you, Helen, like what a perfect inspiration. And every time I see the Clearwater, docked up in the Rondout in Kingston, I'm like, hi, I love it.
But yes, thank you for your presentation, because, that's one of the challenges, is to how to empower the next generation to take action, but and provide that support without telling them what to do.
Yeah. And now we're competing with, TikTok and stuff. My child will make fun of me if he heard that, but and Julia's laughing, but it's true. We also talk about just like the many distractions and the things that are so incredibly discouraging, because they seem like everything, or like everybody's doing whatever, because that's sort of the feed. And so it's the like looking up and out and like over there or down there or up there, and so like really helping model for students that there's a lot to be engaged with, that they, put the phone away, or use your phone to take pictures of the neat things that you're looking at, right? Or record things, but get off the social media for a little bit. Yeah. I also love your cat, Dawn. That was hilarious. I thought I might have a cat too joining me, but she seems to have gone with Finn in the other room. So
yes, well, she was especially ridiculous for a little while earlier tonight.
She was a headdress.
I'm thinking Patricia may have just muted her video cam because she was getting a lot of kitty love too. Is that right? Yup.
Best accessories.
Unite. So y'all, my name's Wendy. I've known Don for a long time. We're geologists, so geologically a long time. I just wanted to mention that my friend and a librarian colleague, Heather, from South Texas College. So we're in the McAllen, Texas area, just a few miles north of the US-Mexico border.
In
And we're
there.
the flat go have you and the
Sure
flat
have.
Gulf Coast area, and this is just so susceptible to climate change amongst other things. So really thank you for the message tonight. And I see Heather's made herself visible as well. So y'all from up north, northeast, where I have some family out in that area, you're so much appreciated for this speaker series too. So thank you.
Thanks, Kathy. It's lovely. Wonderful. Well, I
Any more-
appreciate. Oh, go
Any
ahead.
more cats? I'm sorry, any more cats? You're appreciated. I'm scanning my gallery here.
Oh, Kiana's missing her kitty cat there. Oh, that's sweet. Well, it's such a joy to spend the end of a work week day with all of you, and thank you. And really, truly, don't hesitate to reach out. You know, if you've got ideas, if you just want to connect. I just constantly am finding so much joy in expanding my network of people who are really passionate about climate education, arts education, just activating folks at any stage of life on this. And so I'm always happy to connect with people. So thank you guys for
Like having
joining.
you tonight. No, just say a word about the links that I put in the chat. There's a link to donate to support Science in the Virtual Pub if you would like to do that. And you can check out the coming events on the events page there. And you can go to our YouTube channel if you want to find the recording of tonight, and it's under the live tab. And it will also, in a few days, I'll get it linked from the events page. And thank you so much, Andrea and Julia, and one and all. And if there's other questions, we can stick around for a minute or two.
Now I need my beer.
Mine's almost gone.
I'm like, I don't know how to do the pub part of this and be the speaker, but I definitely need one now. So.
Okay, well, go ahead and get it. We will. We'll
I
call it
wish.
a night.
Tomorrow I have search committee meetings all day. Rats. If it was Friday night. The life of an academic. But tomorrow night I'll have one to celebrate.
All right. Sounds
Sure.
good. Okay.
Well,
Thank you
thanks,
all.
Don. Thanks, Andrea. Have a good night.
And next time we're climate change in Uganda. Is it next? I think.
Andrea, I do have one more question, if you don't mind.
I'm good.
So
I'm here.
one of the blockages to people who are out of school in terms of creatively addressing, climate issues and environmental issues more artistically, whether that's music, which was my field, or visual arts, is venues.
Yeah.
Because, if you're in school, of course, the exhibition goes up in the school hallways. But if you're in a community, whether that's urban, I live rurally now, very rurally, way upstate. New Paltz is downstate compared to my upstate.
Where are you?
I'm actually in the southern tier. You wouldn't know my town, but I kind of near Elmira, which is west of Binghamton.
Yep.
But right on the.
This is in Big Flats.
Who's in Big Flats? Who's in Big Flats?
My sister, Carolyn.
Oh, hey, you have to introduce us.
Okay.
Anyway, there are local art venues, where exhibitions go up, but generally speaking, it's like you have to be taking classes or you have to be recognized. What would you suggest, if anything, for a way to connect? I mean, that's another thing I loved about what you were saying is this recognition that we need community, we need connections with other people, and everything about the culture in the United States in particular is separation, you know, people living in their own little houses in their own little boxes. And unless you're connected with a church or, you know, some other formal community, there's not a way to, and the organizations, which I kind of belong to everything, don't really, you know, it's like this one's about lobbying and this one's about demonstrations, and you know, there's not the room for, this is why I was really choked up and so uplifted by coming to you, to this presentation after the other one. It's just, it's work, and it's discouraging.
Yeah.
You know, especially if you've been doing it for over 50 years and it's not moving fast enough, and you can't understand why everybody isn't alarmed and doing something. So do you have any suggestions for making, other than I am going to be getting in touch with you?
Good, I'm glad.
But, you know, right in your own, wherever you live, how do we make those hookups?
Libraries. That's our public libraries. First of all, like, I think we all need to be like, you know, screaming from the rooftops about how valuable our public libraries are, and, you know, freedom of information, and, you know, like pushing back against book bans and censorship. So to me, one of the best things we can do is also connect with our local public librarians in our libraries, you know, large and small. In my little rural town here, which is, you know, snugged up against the Hudson River right across from Poughkeepsie, we're Highland, and our little hamlet has a beautiful, tiny little public library with the best librarians. I am obsessed with these people. And they are always open to programming, you know, and so any community member, we can go to our librarians and say, I'm super into this. Do you know other people who are, or would you be, or if I coordinated this, or, and so whether it's an exhibition or a concert or a series or a group, a talking group, you know, I think that our public libraries are a very underutilized, really dynamic resource. So if you have access to that, I mean, go talk to the librarians nearest you and see what they think.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Librarians are
As
kind
the
of
son
like,
of a librarian, I endorse that.
yeah. I'm from a family of many librarians, and some of my best friends are librarians, so I'm always trying to like promote, you know, like,
Yeah,
so.
good idea. Thank you.
It's too
Sure.
bad our librarian signed up before this.
Oh, yeah, always happy to sing their praises anywhere, for sure. But yeah, that's, I don't know, it's like the place that I feel like we can reignite sort of like, you know, interconnections in our communities and bring people from sort of different places and spaces together, you know, with a common interest. Like, hey, we happen to be living here on the planet together in this spot. You know, what do we do, you know, in our community to make things a little better and like connect ourselves to the outer world? So to me, it like feels like a neutral and warm and welcoming and free and accessible space for us to do those kind of things. So I encourage you. It's great. Wonderful
you.
question.
I will. As soon as I get the bicycle to go to the library on.
There you go.
Thank you.
Well, great. Well, I think with that, we'll click the end button and say thank you very much. It was really wonderful.
Thank you so much, Don. It was a joy, and thank you to my former students who joined us tonight as well, and to all of you who stuck with us. Really appreciate it. So
Let me save the chat for all the links. There we go. Okay.